Hello and welcome back to the International Cannabis Conversation. Really happy to have everybody here. This is the first episode of Season 2. For those of you who took a couple of weeks, a month and a half off, it was great to close out the show down at Expo Cannabis in Cartagena, Colombia. But wow, coming back now for Season 2 at MJ BizCon. So MJ BizCon is back and in person. All of us are here. This is day one of the full show. And so we've got a whole series of episodes that we're recording here from Podcast Row. Want to thank MJ Biz. They are a Global Cannabis Network Collective event partner and have really gone out of their way to try to accommodate a lot of the international connectivity. We started out with a couple of panels last week, I guess on the 14th, which are all available online for those people who are at the show or have the digital pass. So welcome to this edition of the International Cannabis Conversation. I am your host, Chris Day, with the GCNC. And with me today also is Tess Eidem. Tess Eidem. That's right. You gave me a whole thing before we got on, and I still screwed it up. So
okay.
With Willow Industries. And Tess, thanks so much for joining me.
Great to be here.
Yeah, so I often talk to the audience about the fact that, you know, I like to be a connector. I like to bring people together, find people who are smarter than me to talk about things that are complicated and make it easy for all of us to understand. And you definitely qualify. Your background is spectacular. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you, how you got your nickname as the Microbe Assassin, and we'll dig into the show. So thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so my background is in microbiology. So my PhD work was developing a potential new class of antibiotics. And that's really where I was, I first coined the term microbe assassin because we were trying to kill, bad pathogens for humans. And I've kind of taken that role on at Willow where we want to kill those bad microbes on cannabis, but we don't want to harm the plant. Just like when you take an antibiotic, you want to kill those microbes, but you don't want to get hurt yourself from that antibiotic.
So I know Jill Ellsworth, who is the CEO of Willow, quite well, and have always enjoyed watching the growth of the company. But for those who may not really understand the role that the company has in the supply chain, because it's unique. I mean, it's important to kill these things off, but the technology that Willow has is fairly unique in that kill step.
Right.
And so let's give folks a little bit of background on why Willow is needed and what you guys do.
Yeah, so we are an organic kill step. We use ozone to kill the microbes that are on cannabis flower, and that helps our clients whose flower we're treating to pass microbial compliance testing. So that third-party testing that's required in pretty much every state. You have to meet certain microbial level compliance numbers and qPCR. There's all sorts of things you have to do, and that's where we live in that space of reducing those microbes.
Yeah, and I think, I talk to companies all around the world, and whether you're in Peru or Colombia or Mexico or any of the European markets, everybody has different levels and different rates and expectations and all of that. But the truth is, it doesn't matter which part of the world you're in. There's some things that are pretty consistent, and making sure that your flower is clean is certainly one of those, right?
Absolutely.
So, your background as a microbiologist and now coming into Willow, we talked before the show a little bit, you've got some other businesses with your husband. How did you end up in cannabis?
That's actually kind of a crazy story. So, with my background in antibiotic drug discovery, I was really able to transition a lot of that background and skills into most of the post-harvest extraction, processing, purification, chromatography, lab testing. And that's how I got my foot in the door in the cannabis industry. So it wasn't even my microbiology that really got me in the industry. It was more of my chemistry background. And as as I got more familiar with the cannabis industry, I saw this great need and a huge black box for most people. Like,
Right.
what do we do with these microbes? We can't see them. And I thought that there was a great need, and my skills kind of plugged right in there. And that's how me and Willow came to be.
That's really neat. Well, and it's such a good team over there. I mean, I am biased for sure. I've had a chance to get to know a lot of the team over the years, and I love sort of their purpose-driven approach. The Jill's background in natural products, I think, has transferred a lot to this higher purpose beyond just filling the hole of what the need is and coming in with compliance. I love finding companies like that. One of the big topics I've heard sort of floating in the air this week at the show has been around, regenerative cannabis and ESG, and how do we build a sustainable and responsible industry. And I feel like there's a lot of ways to solve a problem, right? Willow chose a path that really contributes to that type of approach. And I think as an industry overall, we have an opportunity. It's a small window, but we have an opportunity to build an industry that is based in those kind of higher purpose groundings, and to prove to people that you can still do well by doing good.
Yes.
And so I had loved that. So it's cool that you're part of that team over there. What's next? Like, what do you know about what's coming down the road for Willow right now?
Yeah, so, we've really expanded our services. We have the machines that are the ozone KillStep that really does a number on those microbes. We see between 90-99% killing. But we also want to not just be, a Band-Aid for maybe some not so great growing practices or manufacturing practices. And so we're really extending our services to add, the microbiologists on the Willow team to our clients' team and help them sleuth out where these microbial challenges are originating, kind of look for those major common denominators for microbial contamination. So when we onboard new clients, we do a little microbial examination.
Where is that coming in? Like, where do you see that? What is the sort of the issues that you're seeing?
They span very widely.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own unique microbial challenges, but when you boil it down, it really comes down to air quality, contact surfaces, and raw materials, including water. So what is the water like that's actually getting to your plants? Not out of the tap or out of the RO, but after those nutrient tanks and those drip lines, is that water still clean? And we're finding no is the answer.
Yeah, well, and as that shift, I mean, it occurs to me, right? Every state is different. You guys work in a lot of states, and that, of course, is going to be consistent around the world as well. Water quality and everything is a common problem everywhere.
Yeah.
So within a market like the U.S., where at least the appearance is that you've got clean water in just about every market.
Yeah.
What kind of geographical dispersion are you seeing for this problem? Is there certain parts of the country where it's worse than others, or is it more just sort of case by case and how people are behaving?
I think it's more the latter. So we definitely see a lot of it. So I've been all over the country looking at different facilities' water, and basically everyone's failing. When it's like I said, right out of the tap and right out of RO, it's clean.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of sanitation practices for cleaning out nutrient tanks or flushing your lines. And what happens is biofilms form in those on those materials. And a biofilm is just basically a big mat of different types of microbes that all kind of live together, and they protect the inside microbes. So once you get that formed in your lines, it's really hard to get out, and that's just basically continually inoculating your plants with these microbes that you don't want, like biotolerant gram-negatives.
Right. Yeah, it's such a, when you're out just talking to people in the public, right, about cannabis, and this is true whether it's here. I was in Mexico a couple weeks ago. You're talking to folks in Germany. They just don't think about it, right? Even medicinal markets, recreational markets, whatever it is, the process that goes into getting a seed grown and then taken care of and through that whole place and into their hands in whatever form it is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's part of why I love doing the podcast, because of course we've got a lot of people in the industry here, but I also send people who aren't necessarily to listen to say, look, there is some real serious science and work going on behind the scenes that you don't see, that makes sure this is the right product in the right hands at the right time. So it's intriguing to me to hear all about that. So we've got just a couple of minutes left before we have to wrap it up. So as you're sort of looking for what challenges you want to explore more, delve into, using that sort of science and research mind, what gets you excited and pumped up in the chemistry part and looking at microbes and all that? Because you're clearly stoked about it, and I love that. So, what's next? What are we going to have to pay attention to?
I think that as far as from a cultivator's point of view, I think that there's going to be FDA oversight soon. So establishing these good quality practices is going to be, it's imminent. It is coming. And, so what we're recommending, and when we go into a facility and we kind of help people see things they didn't see before, because microbes are invisible, right? You cannot see them. You don't know where they are. Then it starts to become a little bit more common sense, and I really am excited about the level of quality just rising across the industry, and Willow is playing a big role in leading the way in that, and so I'm really excited to see how we're going to take that to the next level.
Yeah, that's great. And for me, to that point, what I am really interested to see is when that happens, you have markets like Europe, which are very pragmatic, highly regulated already, Australia, South America, in many countries like Colombia, they have very rigorous testing and compliance things. International commerce is already here, but it's going to become truly the definitive piece of who succeeds and fails, is whether or not they can play in the global marketplace. And how we create consistency across products, across countries, across continents is... I think the challenge, as I talk to people here at MJ BizCon, it's still very focused on packaging and some of these, basic fundamental tools of building a business. But folks, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I'm always asking the closing questions around those crystal ball type of things, what's coming 3, 5, 10 years down the road, because I really feel if we just stop at what's happening and selling right now, we fail the future of the industry. So I want to thank you so much for coming on today and talking to me about this. This has been great. We don't get to delve deep into the science of what's going on very often, so I'm glad it worked out, because we had some scheduling challenges, folks, which always happens at trade shows. And so we weren't quite sure how it was all going to work out today for this show, but I'm glad it did. So thanks so much.
Awesome.
It's great.
Thank you for
all right.
having me.
And for everybody listening in, if you haven't subscribed, for crying out loud, we're in season 2 now. Hit the subscribe button. Listen to us every 2 weeks and join us for the next episode of the International Cannabis Conversation. Thanks so much, everybody. Talk soon.